Hey, welcome to the InsideSales.com webinar, How to Really Sell to Executive VPs in the C-Suite with Kevin Dorsey. I'm Steve Errer. I'm here subbing in for Gabe, who's out on travel right now. Let's get a little video going while everybody's logging in, and then we'll get right to it.
Inside sales is a fascinating point. Industries go through change, and technology drives a lot of that change. Whether you think about the Industrial Revolution or the Internet boom, what inside sales is about is helping sales teams sell more, and it's doing that by disrupting how they sell, changing the way they approach it, using machine learning, using computers to actually help humans do a better job than they could ever do themselves in the sales process.
I think being able to use predictive analytics to unlock human potential, I think, is so great.
So predictive analytics for me is kind of the wizard behind the curtain, right? And I love it because it drives everything that we do here at the company.
To see where we were 3 years ago when I started to where we are now, we've grown so much, so fast.
And when you work at a place that's growing as fast as we're growing, basically everything breaks about every 3 months. And so you have to be really good with that, but therein lies the opportunity, right?
Coming here, I've really enjoyed the challenge, and since it is such a rocket ship, it's hard, but it's exciting to be part of the change and really get behind what's going to impact the future.
At Inside Sales, we don't have employees. We have what we call accelerators, because everybody is on the same rocket ship, adding to the acceleration of the ship.
Typical accelerator, they are driven, like to have fun, but are also very focused.
We ask tough questions, and we're scrappy about getting stuff done.
They're interested in the well-being of not only the company, but also the well-being of the customer.
So the reason I joined InsideSales.com is because I saw a lot in this company that I saw in a very, very small company called Salesforce.com. Back in 2000, I made a conscious decision to leave a very large technology company called Oracle and start the business in Europe for Salesforce.com. And what I saw at Inside Sales was very reminiscent.
One of the things that everyone's so impressed with is not only the vision, but the leadership team that's been assembled.
You have the ability to learn from these individuals who've done it time and time and time again in their career.
They invest time, money, resources into the accelerators, and it's cool that that's coming from an executive level. It's not coming from bottom up, it's coming from top down. Not only are we working hard all the time together, but we're having a lot of fun while doing it.
All right, thank you very much for joining us. We're excited today to have Kevin Dorsey from, he's head of sales over at Snack Nation. They are killing it over there, and they happen to be one of our customers for a while now. I'm Steve Errer. I'm co-host with Gabe Larson for the Sales Acceleration Show that we hold. It's a weekly podcast. Would invite all of you guys to come, subscribe, listen to us. We have a lot of really great guests on there that have a lot of insight and experience in the sales and sales acceleration world. Let's just go over how this is going to work real quickly. Wow, this is refreshing. So the webinar is going to last about 30 to 45 minutes. You can use the question and answer console to submit any questions, and we'll answer them at the end. You can join the conversation using the hashtag InsideSalesWebinar. And Phil, to answer your question, in an hour and a half, this webinar will be available on demand. So if you can, just go ahead and test out the question and answer console. Let us know where you're logging in from. And with that, let's pass it off to Kevin.
Thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate it. Excited to do this here, and we'll dive right in, guys. And so, as a heads up, I talk fast. There's a lot of content here, so I hope I can keep it moving and engaging for you. But Steve has his eye on the Q&A, so if there's a question that pops up, definitely throw it out here. So, real quick agenda. So, we're going to cover first, just real quick, who the hell am I? Why on earth should you even listen to a second of what I have to say? The 4 questions you must answer for your prospects, your CEO, your VP, whoever it is, in order to get the deal closed. the 4 things you need to learn before you can really pitch and pitch well, and then how to pull off the ROI method really step by step. And so we'll dive right in real quick with just who I am. So again, Kevin Dorsey, the VP of Sales over at Snack Nation, and we consider ourselves the world's greatest snacks company, which of course snacks as a service, and we have been growing immensely fast over the past 2 years. Did a scale out of from 1 rep to now over 40 in just under 18 months. Have signed on thousands of customers during that period of time, mostly through outbound selling. So it's not just like indented with, individual with inbound leads, and we're going out and finding customers and bringing them on. And then I am extremely passionate about my team, about sales training, sales coaching. If there's a sales book out there, I've read it. If there's a blog, I follow it, the podcast. I'm very dedicated to it. And so quick background on where this all came from. I was up in Lake Tahoe. I was on a little vacation, and we actually ended up getting an extra day. And while I'm up in Tahoe looking over the mountains, I was going through a demo. I won't say through what company, but I was going through a demo, and it just was like all the other demos that I sit through. And so after the demo was over, I wrote this LinkedIn post called How to Sell to VPs of Sales. It was part content, part rant, and put that out on LinkedIn, and it went everywhere. I think it's over 20,000 some views now. It's had a couple hundred shares. It went a lot bigger than I thought it would, which is why it led to this webinar here. So hopefully, if you haven't read it, definitely read it, but hopefully I can break it down for you a little bit today. So really, the first place we're going to start, guys, is the 4 questions that you must answer for your prospects. Now, I know the title of the webinar is How to Really Sell to Executives, VPs, C-suites, but it could almost have a caveat to also say how to get things approved by the C-suite. For those of you that aren't talking to the CEOs, but you're talking to VPs or directors that have to get it approved, this will fall in just in line with your process as well. So this is item the 4 questions you have to answer for me. If you are pitching to me, here's what I need to know by the end of your pitch, all right? So first question, okay, or we'll just break this down real quick. You have to think about what happens when you're done pitching. I really want you to picture this. If you get done with a pitch and you think I'm running down the hallways, just shouting the glory of your pitch, or I'm leaning over to my colleagues and saying this is the greatest pitch I've ever had, that's not how it works, right? The very first thing I have to do is I have to run the numbers. I have to see if this even makes sense. Regardless if I want it or not, I have to see if I can afford it. I have to see if I can get it approved, and therefore I have to run the numbers. And this is something that most reps really don't help with. And my goal for today is to show you how to do this so you can make my job easier to say yes, make my job easier to get it approved, which then makes it easier for you to get the sale. All right, so question number 1 that you have to answer for me during your pitch is, first off, results. What is actually going to change or improve at my business, at my company, in my department? How significant are those changes going to be, and how does it actually happen? Most demos go the same way. You ask a few questions about me, about my team, my goals, and then you just cover your product. But very rarely are reps actually showing me what's going to change, what is going to get better specifically by using your product. And I have it there at the bottom. What this comes down to is actual numbers, metrics. What's going up? What's going down? What's speeding up? You have to be able to show me what the tangible results are. For those of you that sell products that are nice to have versus need to have, or you don't know what those metrics are, you have to find out what bottom line numbers your product actually covers for the people that you're talking to. So the first question you have to answer is the results. What is going to change in my world because of your product? All right, and this is something I had in the post, and I know it got said to a lot of people. If your product is not going to directly affect a metric that your prospect tracks or should track, leave them alone. If it's not truly going to have an effect on their business in a positive way, stop going after them. Stop trying to pitch them. It's not worth it. if you can't show me how this is going to help my sales team, for example, make more sales, close more deals, and increase revenue, what are we talking for, right? You have to make sure that if you're going to go after people, you know how it's going to positively affect their business. So then the next part, time. This is the second question you have to answer for me or a VP or a CEO, CFO. How much time is this going to take in order to change it? How easy is this to implement? How quickly will my team buy into it? And how quickly will I start to see results? Okay. This, by the way, guys, this is a screenshot of my real calendar from last week. So for those of you that have been trying to get in touch with me, or you're shooting me emails, you're making cold calls to my phone, I hope you can understand maybe why you haven't heard back from me and why sometimes, I'm sure it's happened to all of us as salespeople in general, why people go radio silent on you and you don't hear back from them. It's not because I'm sitting in my office watching Netflix all day. It's there's so many other things going on that to further sell my team or idea on what your product can do is challenging. And if your product's going to take a month to implement and hours of my time and my team's time, sometimes that alone is enough to push people away from it. So you need to be able to answer for your prospect, how much time is this going to take and how quickly will I see those results? Because if your prospect or your people you're going after aren't going to see results for months, you got to be able to break that down into smaller units to say, well, here's how you know it's starting to work earlier, okay? So question number 2 is time. How much time is this going to take? Okay. The next one, not a lot of people think about this, but what's the possibility that's going wrong? You need to be able to talk to me about, well, if it doesn't work, here's what we're going to do. Is there any possibility that I get this approved by my CEO and I roll this out to the team and it doesn't work? What that looks like when it comes back to me. You need to be able to talk to me one-on-one, salesperson to salesperson, say, if it's not working, here's what we've done in the past. And if it's not working, here's how we can improve it. Or if it's not working, we'll call it a wash. You have 90 days, 120 days, whatever it is. I know in the SaaS world especially, everything's the annual contract. I really would challenge a lot of people to think about what that does for the people you're trying to sign up. That year agreement with no way out of it has a lot of repercussions to the people trying to sign up. And do you really want a disgruntled customer for 12 months? I mean, really think about that. Do you want me as your customer unhappy for 12 months? A lot can go wrong there. So we really need to have a clear game plan of how we're going to work together to make sure this works and it doesn't come back to bite me in the ass. Okay. And then question number 4, ROI. Will I see a strong ROI from your product? And this, guys, is missing from 90% of the pitches and demos that I have sat through this year. For the dollar amount I'm going to spend with you, what is the dollar amount that's going to come back to me? And this is what I meant earlier by even if you're not selling to CEOs or CFOs or VPs, say you can only work up to the director level. If you can help the director see that for every $1 they spend, they'll make 5 back, that's a very easy way for them to get approval. Now I'm going to back up here real quick because we have a question on number 3 here. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, Jessica Morris wants to know, how does your sales team answer question number 3 during a pitch?
Sure. So for ours, for example, we have a 3-month agreement, and it goes month-to-month renewals after that. We have a snack concierge team that handles our customers after they get brought on. So if they don't like a snack, for example, we're able to swap it out. We're able to make adjustments. But at the end of the day, we're willing to cancel a subscription if it's truly not the right fit for the customer.
Excellent. So it's really willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that they have a good experience and they're happy.
Yeah, we want them to be happy. We're going to take all those steps, but kind of what I was saying. We don't want someone locked into a contract with us and unhappy, because especially in a world of social media and everything like that, I'd much rather have a customer say, you know, we didn't like the product, but they were great to work with, than we didn't like the product, they forced us into a contract for a year, and now they're blowing us all over social media.
Great. Hey, thanks. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So back into the ROI here, and this is what this whole presentation is really about, is if you can make it easy for me as the VP to see what I'm going to make back from your product, getting a yes and getting approvals for yeses are very, very easy, because you have to think about what happens behind closed doors. You have a product and you pitched it. Well, that VP needs to go get approval from somebody. There was a book recently that came out with the Challenger Customer, the follow-up to the Challenger Sale. And I think it said right now the average amount of decision makers in a B2B sale is 5.7 or something ridiculous like that. Well, if you're trying to get the 5.7 people behind closed doors to say yes, if they're bringing in an ROI matrix and can show, hey guys, here's what it costs, but here's what we're going to make back, you're going to watch your close rates go up. You're going to watch your size of deal go up, because now you're no longer limited by budget. The number one objection I think most reps run into is budget. Well, when you can show a return on investment, it's no longer about budget. People can find money if they know they're going to make money back. And that's the goal today, is to try to show you how to do this. All right. So let's transition into what you have to learn. Right? Those are the questions you have to answer for me if you're selling to me. But this is what we're going to talk about. What do you have? Yes.
Yeah, real quick on the ROI. What if you're selling? One question is, how do you calculate the ROI on a subscription service for those selling an intangible product?
Can you give me an example?
Let's see, Marie, can you? Marie's asking that, but you know, I know I used to sell, for example, financial services for several different companies, and it's a little harder sometimes when there's not a tangible product that's being actually held to sometimes calculate that ROI.
Oh, sure. So the tangibility actually has very little to do with it as much as what happens from it. And I think I have a slide here that has some examples. Let me see if I can jump to it. 1 second. I think it's right here.
Well, I think Zachary gave the example of, for example, of a corporate wellness program.
Here we go. Okay.
Or a mobile transcription. I'm getting all sorts of examples from from our participants.
This is why we're here. Okay, corporate wellness program. Why do companies do a corporate wellness program? They do it because healthy employees are more productive, they miss less work, they're cheaper to insure, there's lower worker comp issues with people that are there. So a wellness program, it's funny, that falls into my world, but like HR, retention, okay? How much does it cost to hire a new employee? How much does it cost to train a new employee? What does it cost when you lose somebody, right? Well, like mobile, what was the other one? Mobile something?
A mobile transcription service for financial advisors to document client notes.
Beautiful. Okay. So what's the cost of data entry errors? What's the cost of people not having the data they need in front of them? How much time are people doing that on their own? I think of a financial analyst, if they are manually transcribing all those notes versus able to have it recorded, and I'm making $80K a year, so I'm making $60 an hour or whatever that is, there's your tangibility, right? Everything has a return on investment, everything. And it's something where, especially in the world of account-based selling, which is the buzzword right now and what this slide is all about, there's no reason not to know what their world revolves around and how you can turn it into a tangible dollar amount. Does that answer the question?
I believe it does. Thank you.
Okay. Absolutely. And so this is what this slide is all about, is you need to know what the main drivers of success are for me and how it's measured. All right, so if you're selling to salespeople, obviously it's revenue and new customers. You're selling to marketing. I mean, it could be leads, marketing qualified leads, revenue, page views. Like, you can get tangible there. You're selling into HR, retention, hiring, attrition, attracting of new people, keeping people, all of those things. Finance, dollars in, dollars out, efficiency, which is, by the way, for everybody, time is always money. Time is always money. So if you can show them how they're saving time and what else they can do with that time, that's an ROI discussion. You're selling into IT, your securities, uptime, downtime. Like, what would it cost if they do get hacked? Like, there's ways to figure this out for whatever your product is, whatever it is, and you need to take the time to do so. So this is the first thing you have to learn. What does my world revolve around? So as a VP of sales, it revolves around sales, new customers, revenue. Okay. So the next thing you have to learn is what is it worth to me, right? So if you're selling to a salesperson, right, or a VP of sales, what is one new customer worth to me? The example of the mobile transcription. If the only thing that's doing for me is saving time, then you need to know what that time is worth to me. What is my hourly going rate? And if there's errors being made, what's the repercussion of those errors, right? What would happen if the data is incorrect, someone gets it wrong, and they lose a customer? So you need to know what that value is for me. If my website is down for an hour, how much am I missing out on? You know, I know for a lot of salespeople, they've been coached to find the pain. I want to be very clear here. This doesn't have to be negative. This doesn't have to be like find out what's going wrong. It can be very positive, saying, all right, well, one customer is $100 a month for you and they have an annual agreement, so it's worth $1,200 for that customer. Or, okay, you work 10 hours a day and you're spending 2 hours doing manual data entry. Man, like, if we can get that away, I think we can do more with it. But you need to know tangibly what it's worth to me as your prospect, whatever it is you're trying to help me get more of. Then you come here and you say, okay, now we're going to find the metric, the thing that this is going to have the biggest impact on. And ideally, this is 2 or less areas you're going to focus your demo on. Where is it going to have the biggest impact on me or your prospect in relation to what my world revolves around and what it's worth to me? So please stop showing me all the things that aren't going to have an effect on it. I'm going to go through an example towards the end here, but most demos are anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes long, and they cover every piece or tool of the software or the program. You can shorten your demo and get way more value from it if you're only highlighting the areas that are going to have a direct relation to what we talked about earlier, whether that's saving me time, getting me more customers, getting more leads to my website, like hiring better and faster, onboarding reps quicker, right? There was someone I spoke with 6 or 7 months ago, you know, selling like an education type software. Well, if you can show someone how your program is going to teach people faster so they're making sales quicker or they're onboarded faster to your company, there's a very, very tangible result there, right? And can you guys hear me okay? I just want to make sure I'm not too quiet. I can get louder.
Yeah, it just it sounds pretty good. If there's any way we can turn up just a tad, that'd be great.
Okay. All right, cool. I'm talking to the mic just a little bit more here. So this is important here. Like, I'm kind of a spaz. If you guys could see me, I'm walking all over the place. My hands are all over the place. I probably should stay closer to the mic here. So, all right. So this is where the demo should focus, guys. It's the metric, the biggest areas of impact that your product is going to have on your prospect. And so we'll come into this here real quick. Just a quick highlight on features and benefits because I think it's important to cover this. Most reps get this completely wrong, okay? First of all, still, it's beyond me how many people still only focus on features, okay? For all the salespeople listening right now, and then for all like the VPs that are getting pitched to if you're hearing this, it'd be funny for you guys to, if you could watch me during some of these demos that I go through, and I know this happens for other people, I can put you guys on mute sometimes for minutes at a time because you're just talking about all the different features of your product and not engaging with me at all. It's like, oh, this does this, this does this, this does this. So I'm going to clarify this real quick. A feature is what something is. This is a button. A benefit is what it does. It uploads your prospects into Salesforce. But we have a phrase here at Snack Nation that, it's the STHW. I have a little typo here on the second one. STHW is what it has to pass in order to actually be a benefit. All right. So what that stands for is so the hell what? You need to think about having a little person on your shoulder that asks you this question every single time you talk about a piece of your product, right? So the hell what? Because this is what's going through your prospect's head the entire time that you're talking. You have to be able to answer this, right? So I don't care if you don't know what I track or what I measure, you really can't make strong benefits because you don't know what to link it back to. Right, so here's an example. We verify emails through a proprietary server testing protocol. So the hell what? What does that even mean? Well, so that your email delivery goes up, giving your reps more responses, ops, and time to sell. What's your bounce rate right now? This is how you start to have a very educated conversation with the people that you're talking to, is when you can pass the so the hell what test, right? This corporate wellness program will help your employees eat healthier all day at work so that they have more energy, can focus better, and have less dips in the afternoon. So at the end of the day, they're getting more done at work. Isn't that what we're trying to do anyway? That's how you need to start addressing benefits, is they have to pass the so the hell what test. A lot of my team members here, they have little sticky notes on their monitors to remind them. We do spot checks and role plays. Here's the benefit. What's the so the hell what? To really ingrain this into people that unless you're breaking it down like this, it's just going over their head every single time, all right? So let's try to put this all together here. I'm going to try to go slowly through this because we're getting into numbers, and I just don't want it to be too complicated, all right? So here's the example, all right? At this point in a demo, you should know what metrics I'm tracking. You should be explaining how your product will affect those metrics with the so the hell what test and what that will mean monetarily or time-wise for my team. And then this is how you're going to wrap it all up for the person you're talking to on that call and probably in your follow-up as well. So, the goal of the ROI method is if you can clearly show how your product is going to give at least a 5 to 10x return on investment, getting a yes becomes very, very simple. All right, if you can truly show a return on investment, not just what your product costs, what I'm going to get from it, what your prospect's going to get from it, it's going to work out so much better for you. Now, a quick tip on this though, when you're going for the ROI method, you want to go conservative. You're not going to use the best case scenario, but actually the worst case scenario that you and your prospect can agree on. Because if you tell me that, oh, one customer increased appointments by 400%, okay, that I know that's not going to happen for me. If I increased appointments by 400%, my SDRs would be creating, 400 some ops a month. Like, that's not realistic. We need to agree upon what we think is realistic from the program. So again, you want to actually go conservative here and say, well, hey, worst case scenario, we'd see this. So let's run these numbers and see if this still makes sense, right? And this is your first check-in with a prospect to say, hey, do you think that we'll at least see X happen by using our program? So I'll use the wellness program one, for example, where it's like, do we at least agree that if we ran this through your team, that we could get even 5 or 6 people to be healthier every single month? or the mobile transcription. I mean, do we agree that we'll save you at least 2 hours a day by doing this instead of what you're doing right now? You got to check in here to make sure that before you go into this, that they at least agree to that. Because if they don't agree that anything's going to change, your demo's already over, and you need to either back up or just wash your hands because you haven't shown them that things are actually going to get better, which was question number 1 you had to answer for them. So here we go. This is the example we'll use because it's a simple one. The product is Maily, the email tool. Main value prop, improved open rates and response rates. The cost of this product is $1,000 a month with an annual agreement, so it's $12,000 for me to buy. Who Maily's selling to? The VP of Sales at SuperBiz. The cost of what I sell is $200 per month. So the LTV of one of my customers is $2,400, and I have a team of 20 AEs. Okay. So in order to see a 5x ROI, I need to see $60,000 in additional sales, for 25 new customers to justify the cost of this. Now I'm going to pause here real quick. Steve, do we have any questions coming in on this slide here?
Well, it's a question from earlier from Adam that I think would apply here. How do we find the LTV of a customer when they're a little hesitant to give the numbers? How do we get past that so they're willing to give us numbers so we can actually calculate for that for them?
Well, it's actually relatively simple when you justify the question. If you go to the person you're talking to and you say, hey, I know in order for you to make this purchase, we got to see a strong ROI from this. So would you mind sharing with me kind of what's the average customer value to you? Because if we can't show that this is going to be worth it, I want to save you the time. If you set it up that way and the person is still not willing to give you any information on what it is they sell or what that value is, then you have to kind of, again, either back up or you have to say, well, can we use a guesstimate? Just a range. I don't need anything specific, but just a range to see if this makes sense. Because if it doesn't make sense together, I don't want you having to run these numbers afterwards. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess I'd also ask, would you use that as an indicator that they're not actually that interested if they're still not willing to give you anything, if they're not willing to budge and use that as an indicator that, you know what, they're probably not that interested, probably need to move on to the next one?
Absolutely, because if they're not willing to give that there because you're trying to save them time, something's already off. Because if they're interested, they're going to have to run those numbers anyway. So I think it's a great gauge question to see where you're at with this person, because if they don't trust you enough to share that information now, something's kind of off.
Right. And I like the fact that it's not only a gauge question, but it's not a gauge question for a gauge question's sake. It's a gauge question that moves the process along as well and makes it easier for them to accept the potential solution.
Absolutely. So this is where we're at. At the end of the day, guys, we're trying to say, all right, if we can get $60K in additional sales or 25 new customers, this more than pays for itself 5 times over. So these are the metrics that we learned. Currently, the email open rates are 25%. I have an overall response rate of 10%. My reps are sending out 100 emails a day, which is leading to 2 ops per day. There's a 30% conversion rate, so they're closing about 12 deals a month, right? Very basic numbers here as we go through it. And so then we get to this, and we can show, all right, well, this is where you're at right now, prospect. You're sending 100 emails a day, response rate's 10%. That's getting you 2 ops per day. Maily, we see people get response rates of 20%, 30%, 40% going through our program. But conservatively, if we can just get you to a 15% response rate instead of 10, we're going to get to 3 ops per day instead of 2 ops per day. Or if you come down here and say, all right, if we can get your open rates from 30% to 40%, all other metrics staying the same, we get you an extra half an op per day. So that's an extra 10 ops per month that you can go through. Well, what this looks like, guys, is surprisingly simple. By increasing the response rate from 10% to 15% from one rep, we're adding one additional op per day, which is 20 extra per month. And if the conversion rate stays the same, that's 6 additional deals per month for that rep. And with a team of 20, we're talking about a potential of 100 deals that come from a response rate increase from 10 to 15. Now, real quick, VPs, this is how you need to look at things. Very small conversion changes can make a huge difference across your team, whether it's open rates, response rate, conversion rate, lead rate. Like, small changes can really add up. But when you start talking to prospects this way, I'll go back to call it like the HR one or the mobile transcription of saying, well, hey, it's saving each one of you 2 hours per day. What would you do with that time additionally? Oh, well, I could talk to more customers. I could handle more people per day. All right, so we're going to let you handle one extra person per day and save you 2 hours per day, which is worth roughly $120 per day right there. You can really start to make the numbers side of this work really, really well, because this makes it easy for me to go get it approved, right? So any questions on this part? Because I'm going to move into some real world examples here with people I've worked with over the past few months who have also pitched to me. Any questions here, guys?
Yeah, when you're working with, since there's some industries where there's definitely no ROI. The example that Chris uses is advertising. And it's really hard to get a hard number on that. How would you handle something like that?
Yeah, so advertising obviously depends on which side it is. Advertising, when you're talking like brand awareness, it would really be knowing how do the companies you work with right now gauge success at all? Like, is there any way that they're measuring success of an advertising campaign? That would be the question I'd want to know, because I guess at the end of the day, if they're just paying money and they aren't looking for results at all, let me know, because I'd love to sell to those guys. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Right, absolutely.
Everyone has a desired outcome, and so I would want to know that, saying, all right, well, what's their desired outcome? They're giving you guys money for a reason. What are they looking for on the back end that becomes tangible?
There's got to be some metric, something that they do use to measure one way or the other, and it's just you adjust your ROI calculation based off of how they measure success.
Correct. This comes back to the slide earlier of knowing what your prospect world revolves around. That's what it's all about. No one just pays money just to pay money. There's always something they're trying to see from it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely. So here are a couple of examples here. So here's one from Outreach. They broke down. They said, all right, let's talk about the number of reps, what your connect rates are, how you're doing this. Mark, their VP of sales over there, put that together kind of after going through the article and saying, oh, well, this is very relevant to our product, to be able to show, hey, if we can get this to come up or this to come down or this to speed up, here's what that means monetarily for your company. All right, they did a great job of it. Here's another one from Exec Vision. And we use Exec Vision for like our call coaching and tracking and scoring. So one of their big value props is, well, improving rep performance. Well, Kevin, by listening to these calls and giving scoring and being able to give feedback to your reps, do you think we might be able to get their conversion rate up from X to X? Well, yes. And so now they're starting to incorporate this type of messaging into their follow-up. Steve actually sent me over some of the questions that they're asking now, and it's very metric focused to say, all right, well, this changes because you're listening. Here's what's going to come up. And then the follow-up is so valuable here, because back to the example of what happens after your pitch, if I have to go get approval and I can walk into the office of my CEO or my CFO and show them, here's what it costs. Here's what's going to get better. Here's how much we should make or improve or get from it. And here's what happens if it doesn't work. How much easier is that for me to get approved, or you as a rep to get things approved? If you have a very buttoned up case that I'm going to make more money or I'm going to save a significant amount of time, the approval process is so much easier. I can't stress that enough, guys. If this makes sense, you can get so much more things approved and way faster, right? So this is an example of how we try to do this as well. Saying, all right, saving time on a food run, a 5% productivity increase, because a happy employee is 12% more productive and a healthy employee that eats healthy all day is 11% more productive. Well, let's come down to 5%, right? Like, these are the things that a VP of HR will resonate with them. Yes, I'm selling to the office manager, but the VP is going to have to approve this. These are numbers that are going to make sense to them, right? So when you start putting things all together, when you know your customer, you know how the world is going to improve by your product, and you can give them true, tangible metrics to look at and to follow up with, your selling gets easier. It makes your prospects feel better. You look like more of an expert to them, and you're going to close significantly more deals. So with that, I'd love to open it up to more questions, if there's anywhere else I can help, and see if you guys have some feedback for me.
Absolutely. Zachary just asked, how does Snack Nation calculate those employee values?
I'm sorry, say that again?
How does Snack Nation calculate those employee values?
So like with the facts and figures, I mean, really it's letting other companies do the research for us. There's no shortage of companies that are studying how healthy eating affects people in the workplace. Engagement is a buzzword all over the place, right? So we're able to work with those studies and say, well, this is what a healthy employee does. We also know that for our product, the people that like to use it the most, they're probably growing. They have a millennial base, so we know that millennials enjoy having snacks in the office and they want healthier options. But it's funny because in the article that I wrote, part of it was saying, I wish we had a more direct, thing that we could relate to people. If I ever, which I probably won't ever, but if I ever leave Snack Nation, I'm selling to salespeople. I'm selling to VPs of sales or VPs of marketing, because those numbers are so cut and dry that it's something where you can really show value with whatever your product is. So it is a challenge. We're selling snacks. Do snacks make people happy? Yes, they do. Do we have snacks that people can't get access to? Yes, but can we always tie like a strong, tangible number to it? No, we can't, and that's sometimes what makes the sale hard.
I think Lisa used the example. She calls that value on investment. She's one of the people following today, and I think that goes to the fact that sometimes it's not a return on investment. Sometimes it's an additional value that you're presenting to your people. John wants to know, does Kevin's team hold off on preparing an ROI until after the discovery call to uncover input, or does the team make assumptions to first talk about them and then speak to a buyer to fine-tune assumptions?
Great question. So for Snack Nation, we do it now. Our sales cycle is a little bit shorter. So we have our qualifying call, and then we have our discovery call. So we are finding out more of that info on the discovery call and then bringing it into the pitch, which is also on that call, and then including that information into the follow-up, documentation. So for some of you guys that have very long and complicated sales cycles, this doc might happen after the third or fourth call as you continue to gather the information that you need, because they may not have it all readily accessible at that time.
Before we go on to the next questions, I want to make sure everybody knows that a couple of offers out there to people participating in the webinar today. If one from you guys that if they're like a free sample box, just to go ahead and email you at kevind@snacknation.com. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
No, guys. I mean, if you get snacks in your office right now, we'd love to be able to show you how, maybe we could upgrade it, make it a little bit more exciting, a little bit better for you. So, if you're doing snacks or you think that your HR office manager person would be interested, link them up with me and we'll take care of them.
And I can tell you, I worked in an office where our workload tripled or quadrupled during tax season, and they would bring in snacks, and that made all the difference in the world for those of us who had to carry the workload.
Absolutely.
Also, we have a download for you. It's cold calling and sales prospecting, a day in the life of a top performing sales rep. We're going to offer that. You can download in the free resources menu. It's a CSO Insight report that the average sales rep only spends 2 days a week effectively selling. So definitely that's worth a look. And also an additional plug to the Sales Acceleration Show podcast that Gabe and I hold. We usually have 2 episodes a week. One of the things we're going to do this week is we're going to make sure that we put this audio out, and so everybody can have it easily accessible on their iPhones or listen to it whenever they like to. One more question, going back to the questions. Don asks this question: how do you sell to a CFO? I grew up with a father who was a CFO, so I understand this question very well. They're hesitant to trust any numbers they don't prepare themselves, and I can tell you that's absolutely the case. So how do you do that?
Sure. So if they're not willing to give you any numbers, right? They're not willing to give you any. It's making a doc that allows them to run those numbers easily for themselves. But then also, too, this is where social proof is so important. If you've sold to other CFOs that have seen results, right? This is something we talk about here. Sales numbers don't lie, salespeople do. So if you have a CFO that can give them a reference of, hey, we saw this type of increase, that's how you can work a little bit better there. So it's giving them the freedom or flexibility to run the numbers on their own and see what the ROI looks like, but at the same time, justifying the numbers you gave them with social proof, not just what you told them.
Oh, and I think that when they can calculate it and see themselves, that's 10 to 100 times more of an impact than if you were just to lay it out for them. Let me ask you this. Let's pivot to a CEO. How would that, Don follows up with a question, what about a CEO? Would that change at all?
Not really. Well, let me rephrase that. Yes, it definitely changes, because what a CFO cares about is definitely different than what a CEO cares about. And so it's you knowing who you're talking to, and again, knowing what their world revolves around and what that decision-making process is. Even here, like the difference between our CEO and our CFO are night and day. So it's finding out what matters to them, what their world revolves around, how they would measure success, and then putting that in front of them.
John asked this question: what part of your sales tech stack brings your team the most value?
Ooh, what part of our tech stack brings the most value? It's funny. Like, we have the automation tools. We have I'd say the tools that allow my reps to save time. So we do use inside sales, we use sales loft, we use outreach. So we have a decent stack, but it's the tools that allow them to save some time so they can actually spend a little bit more time on like customer-focused research. So whether that's scrubbing their leads and making sure that they went to that company's Glassdoor to find out kind of what people are saying about it, that kind of stuff. So the stack really works together. It's hard to call out one that's just like, oh, this changed our world, you know?
Yeah, no, in an ideal stack, that's exactly what everything's doing. I know my guys, there's a question, and when we talk about this a lot on the podcast, of are we doing high velocity sales, or are we doing account-based targeted sales? I like to say that we do a quantity of quality. So it's those things that we can use, like the like the inside sales platform, to really personalize the message, which I think is a lot of what you were saying today. Not just throw stuff to the wall and see what sticks, but have a personalized message for each person that you're speaking with, and then also do it at a high rate and a high volume, so you can make sure you're getting as many touches and as many at-bats as you possibly can.
And actually, Steve, there's one question in here that I'd love to address as well. I think this was from David Leo, and basically what he's saying is, like, you know, the methodology's on point, but, you know, even he is, you know, skeptical that healthy snacks can drive it. And I mean, I 100% agree with you. It's one of the hardest parts of our sale, is that it's not easy to see a direct ROI from snacks. The value is definitely there, right? If you have the same snacks every single day for 6-7 months, you're going to be bored with them. One of our value props is that there's rotation, there's new, there's excitement, and that tangibility is there. But yes, it's definitely a challenge that we run into, which is why we have to make sure we cover all bases. We're going to cover ROI, we're going to cover value, we're going to cover what that means for the team, and by covering all 3 or 4 of them, that's how we bring it all together. You know, I can't remember where the original quote came from. They said sales is emotion backed by logic. We have to use a combination of emotion. People be happier with logic. Here's what we can see from it, and try to put them all together.
Great. I know we've got a bunch more questions in the queue, and unfortunately we are out of time. Please, if you do have more questions, or we weren't able to get to your question, please reach out to us on LinkedIn, or go ahead and shoot us an email. We got Kevin's email. We got my information on LinkedIn. We'll be happy to answer those, and we will have this available for you in a few hours here, that you'll be able to see everything, and then definitely you'll be able to hear everything as well on the Sales Acceleration Show on the podcast. And so, Kevin, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And for everybody who joined us, thank you. And with that, let's go get at it.
All right. Have a great end of the quarter, guys.